Hello, lads. Today I'm going to be giving you my review and my general thoughts about a lesser known Nicolas Winding Refn movie. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly. I've only seen it printed. I've mostly only seen it printed. Maybe I've heard it before, but not enough times to make me sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly. But if I'm not, please don't correct me in the comments because I don't care that much. But in any case, however you say the guy's name, and hey, he's Danish. I'm large part of me is Norwegian, so we brothers, we Scandinavian brothers, even though I'm a mongrelized brother. And most of what Refn's what Refn is known for is his later movies, most famously Drive, Only God Forgives, Neon Demon. I think Drive probably the one that's everybody's favorite. I really think this early movie, Fear X, which is the title is so strangely like the new Fast and the Furious movie, Fast X. It's an interesting parallel. One word starting with an F, four letters, and then the letter X. But I really think this movie is my favorite of his, and I think it's worth a watch, especially if you fancy yourself to be a cinematic connoisseur the way that I do, rightly or wrongly. So what's this movie about? This movie stars John Turturro, and he plays a mall cop. So this is also something that I've thought of as, in a way, this is like the beginning of the mall cop trilogy. You had this movie, Fear X, in 2003, and then I think in 2007 we had Paul Blart Mall Cop, and then in 2008 you had the great comedy slash drama, incredibly based movie, Observe and Report, one of my favorite movies. And it starred Seth Rogen before he became pathetic. He's great in it. So anyway, that's another way of looking at Fear X, is like the beginning of the Mall Cop trilogy. It's just sort of an amusing way of, for some reason, mall cops became a thing in the aughts. So this movie is very much what I've heard called a slow burn. It builds up tension. It could be called somewhat slow paced, but there's an intrigue about it that keeps you invested, keeps you watching. And what I like about it, one of the things that I like about it, is that while it's heavy on atmosphere, and somewhat Lynchian in that respect, there's a lot of emphasis on visuals. There are a lot of scenes, with where things pass, really slowly, and there's like tableau shots, long shots of various things, and this kind of intense music building up on the soundtrack, and there are instances of people having visions, the main character having visions, and seeing things that aren't quite described, or aren't quite explicated, I should say. We don't exactly know how they fit in, or why he's seeing these things. Is it his sixth sense? Is it just his imagination? There are also a couple of scenes where color plays a big role. There's a color schematic, and we have this image of a red face that appears to us, that sort of tells us what's going on in the mind of the main character at this particular moment as his rage is building. But the character played by Turturro is this rather mild-mannered guy, except that he's just or recently has. It's not clear exactly how long it's been. It's been maybe a couple of months or so, but he suffered this terrible tragedy in his life when his wife was murdered in the mall parking lot, and it was never clear why it happened. It became this mystery, and it's a mystery that he is, of course, resolved to get to the bottom of. He wants to know what happened, and the rest of his fellow mall cops, and also there's a scene where he meets with some actual cops, and interviews with them, and they're all kind of condescending towards him. They're all sort of like, look, you gotta get over this. You gotta. This is something you shouldn't pursue this in your head any longer. Just get on with your life. The kind of things that they're presuming to say to a man who had his pregnant wife. Yeah, I didn't mention that she was pregnant. That had seen his pregnant wife killed for some strange unknown reason that has never been explained, and the person who did it has never been found. This was something that was obviously motivating him, as it would motivate anyone. But nobody takes him seriously when he goes to the police station. They all sort of look him up and down and say things, because they've actually found the guy who did it. But it's all about seeing these low res security videos. So all we have is this blob of a face, and that they've zoomed in as much as they can. And so they see that face, but it's not clear. He can't really be identified from the picture because it's too blurry. But they know that he's the one who shot her. So in a vision that Turturro has, he sees his now deceased wife walking over to this place next door, and that leads him to ask questions about who occupied the place next door to where his house was, and he finds out that the place is already occupied. And he finds his way inside and looks around, pokes around, finds some things. One of the things that he finds is some evidence that leads him to believe that there's the person who was staying at this place had some contact with this diner, which is at a small town in the middle of Montana, and that he also finds a picture of a woman. A blonde woman with holding a child, like a toddler child, and so he goes to visit this place, and he realizes that the town that he's going, where this diner is and where this motel is, that he finds also the person who was living at that house is. Had some connections or was staying in this motel. It's this motel which he and his wife stayed at during their honeymoon. And it's this weird, this weird motel. And there's a obvious callback to Barton Fink. Anybody who hasn't seen that movie, that's to me one of the Coen brothers' best films that also doesn't get the kind of recognition that it deserves. I might have, I know I've written a review of it, and I think it's up on my Substack page now, so you can find it there. But this movie obviously calls back to that because it's the same lead actor, and it's this surreal feeling motel, and the guy in the lobby the clerk who gives him the keys to his room says something like, "We offer a lot of different kind of entertainment here," and says, "You've been with us before." So there's this surreal atmosphere that kind of pervades this place. And at one point, some woman who's on the staff, who's wearing a staff uniform, somebody who works in the motel, comes to his door and sort of attempts to semi-seduce him, and he sort of gives in but semi-resists, and it's a very strange, unnerving kind of scene. So what's really going on here? There's some connection between this strange motel which has these strange goings on, and this diner where he visits. And when he visits this diner, he brings the picture of this woman, and the waitress there isn't able to help him. But it just so happens there's this cop there who knows the person that he's talking about, who knows this woman. And so this cop just sort of intrudes in. And it's interesting because we initially see him sitting in the back of the room, and he calls attention to himself even before he's introduced. But then, while Turturro's character is talking to the waitress, we see it from his point of view. He gets up and comes over and says, "Maybe I can help," and pretends to be helpful, but obviously what he's doing is taking note of who Turturro is and what he's doing here, and sort of asking about his contact information, and saying all of the stuff which should be unnerving to Turturro, to Turturro's character, but it's not clear how much Turturro knows about the sinister goings on here. Like, how much does it really register to him that there's something deeply sinister happening, something evil under the sun here, under the big Montana sky. And then the film does something really interesting. We pull away from Turturro's character, and then we get to know, through the woman who's in the picture, we get to know this other guy who's her husband, and who it turns out is the killer of Turturro's wife. But it's what gets revealed. He's a part of some elite secret society that wants to rid the country of corrupt cops, and it's introduced very oddly and very very mysteriously, and it's very intriguing. There's what this secret society is all about, why they exist, what's really going on with this thing, and the interesting thing that the movie does when it switches us from Turturro as the individual through which we're seeing everything, when it switches over to this other guy, we find out that that shooting her was just an accident. It was a terrible mistake, and one that he feels bad about. That he shot another man who I guess was a corrupt cop. That was the guy he was going after, that he was tracking down, but in the process of doing that, accidentally shot Turturro's wife, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it turns out this guy's not a bad guy at all. He's not evil, and he feels terrible about what he did. But now he's in this position where Turturro, where more or less Turturro knows or is going to figure out who he is, and that he was renting that place next to next to his. I should add, there's lots of wintry shots. There's lots of great pictures of shots of desolate landscapes. There's also lots of wonderful interior shots, whether it's the mall, and I'm fond of malls, so I'm a sucker for that. But there's also the interior of the motel, which is interesting. Also, this obvious callback to Barton Fink, which I appreciated as a cinema connoisseur of sorts. And while I'm not going to give away the ending, I will say that it's an open-ended ending, but not an unsatisfyingly open-ended one. My impression with a lot of David Lynch movies is, especially ones that he made later, like after Blue Velvet, after Wild at Heart, like later on in his career. I think maybe starting with Twin Peaks, which I was never that into. And my problem with it and with a lot of Lynch's later work is that the story just seemed to disappear, and it just came to be about weird happenings, weird goings on, and it was almost like there was no real plot per se. There was no real reason why anything was happening except just for Lynch to have this to get this vibe or this atmosphere going. And so a lot of these Lynch movies from the 90s and the aughts, to me ended unsatisfactorily, where it's just like, what the hell was that? What actually happened? What was actually going on? But this movie, which was obviously very influenced by Lynch, this movie you do have the satisfaction of a coherent plot, even if certain things are kept mysterious, like the identity of this secret society and what makes them tick and why they do what they do, and how this man that we come to meet, who becomes this tragic figure, in that he killed Turturro's wife, but didn't intend to, and he actually has a conscience. He feels bad about it, but he also it also is left in the air that now he needs to take care of Turturro. So is he going to be able to do that? Is he going to be able to be cold-blooded enough to shoot this innocent man who now knows the truth? And the way that it ends is open-ended enough, that open-ended in a good sort of way, open-ended in a way that heightens the intrigue, but doesn't make it so that it's just like, huh, what the hell was that? That didn't make any sense. So all in all, a movie well worth seeing. And if you haven't seen it, and you're a fan of these kinds of movies, these kinds of creepy, atmospheric, almost in some ways film noir, feeling, where there's something going on under the surface, and there's there's a real sinister vibe to everything, but it's also very subtle, unlike Refn's later work, where people are eating eyeballs and there's explicit violence and all kinds of things. There's nothing really ever explicit in this movie. It's all beneath the surface, and in a way, it's kind of Hitchcockian, I think, in that regard as well. So that's my review. My review of Fear X, but directed by Nicolas Winding Refn and starring John Turturro. Thanks for watching.